everybody, thanks for joining in. It's been a little while since my last video, but I wanted to take some time and go over some of the tools that I've found in the last year here that have made leatherworking much more enjoyable for me. It's like anything, I sort of struggled finding the tools that fit my way of making things, and spent a decent chunk of change over the last year trying to find some of these tools. So maybe if you're just getting started in leather work, you can save some time and money by finding this stuff. So tried a bunch of different knives. I have found, especially if I'm using plexiglass templates for cutting out my wallets, that just a generic utility knife with interchangeable blades is what I prefer to work with on straight cuts. I'm sure there's better stuff out there, but I seem like I just keep going back to this knife for straight cuts. Now, if I have any sort of detailed cut, corner rounding, or intricate work, I picked up this Mozart interchangeable blade knife here from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply. That's where I've been getting my Wickett and Craig leather, and I don't have any affiliation with them, but this was something that really helped step up my leather work, as far as I wasn't getting nice rounded corners before, but I'm really able to be precise and get detailed work with this knife. So definitely recommend it. One thing to watch out for, they sell these with sort of like a partially blunt tip and ones with a really sharp point. And I don't know if you can see on there, but this is one of the sharp ones, but I find on my cutting mat that it just has a tendency to want to dig in and snap off right away. So if I were to buy these again, I would probably try the blunt tip. If you have any input on that, let me know. But in general, this is like way nicer than the cheap little utility knives you get at Lowe's, or I even got my first one at Tandy's, but it was just like, the cheapest bottom of the barrel stuff, and it always comes loose. The blade stays tight. The cap, which I have over here in my tool cart, has a little wrench for the fitting. So definitely helped my leather work. Messed around with a bunch of different glues, tried different, I think, Eco Weld from Tandy, another one from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply. I think those were water-based. They did work, but I always found that when I was gluing like the tops of my wallets together, that eventually, after I would use them for a couple months, the seam would split, and it really just didn't have the level of finish. Now, that could be because I was doing something wrong. It could have been my surface prep. But before I really totally figured that out, I went to Barge all-purpose rubber cement. Definitely has an odor with it. It's a little bit different to work with, but since I switched to this, anytime I'm sort of laminating two pieces of leather together, I've had really good luck. And one thing I've noticed is, if you let it dry like you're supposed to, and then when you put the pieces together, it doesn't tend to mush out and spread, which is an issue that I had with the Eco Weld. Again, that could just be my inexperience. I'm not saying Eco Weld's a bad product, but I was able to get a higher quality product faster with this. So that's something to take into consideration. In the gluing department, another thing that I found really helpful, once I switched, actually I had glue application issues even before I switched to rubber cement, but these are silicone rubber glue spreaders. I'm sure you can use them for other things, but again, these are from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply. And one of the issues I was having on the wallets, on the inner pockets, was when I was trying to put just a nice, clean, tidy line of glue, I was getting inconsistent amounts of glue, and then it would squish out. And these allow you to go in there and like really precisely put the glue on. I can walk right up to my layout lines. I'm not getting glue where I don't want it. These like cut my glue time in half. Before this, I was trying things like little acid brush paintbrushes, Q-tips. I tried a bunch of different things, but I don't think I'll ever go away from these, at least for wallet work. Really happy with those. So definitely, these are cheap too, so check them out. Another product in the glue area, this is a silicone glue mat here on the workbench. A lot of times I'll glue like 10, it's about 10 wallets together at a time. So this just has made working with rubber cement a lot easier. When you get glue on it, it just rubs off. couple bucks definitely makes the working area nicer. Before that, I was gluing on my cutting mat, and you know, that doesn't clean up as nice. So it's just having a glue station and a cutting area definitely works out. While we're talking about cutting mats, this is a 24 by 36 cutting mat. I'm not even sure who makes it, but I got it at my local Walmart. Definitely was worth having the bigger cutting area. I'm only ordering in, you know, half hides from Wicket and Craig at Rocky Mountain Leather, and I get them split. You know, it would always be nicer to have a bigger cutting area, but I've been much happier with this than like the normal 12 by 18 size or whatever it is. Sorry, it's a bit of a mess here. Let's see. Other things that I found really helpful. I struggled with edge burnishing for a while, and tried a couple different things. I had neat's foot oil and saddle soap, and what I ended up with, or at least what appeals to me on my edges, and I'm not taking my edges to like a really high, super high polish, but I do like them to have a finished look to where, you know, you're not looking like it's a raw grain. So what I ended up doing was I lightly sand, and a lot of times I'm just using whatever sandpaper I have around. This happens to be 80 grit. That's probably a little rough, to be honest. I think some of the stuff I have around is 120. So I'll hit my edges with the sandpaper, and then I apply some of this just regular old beeswax. And I also bought off of Amazon one of these rotary burnishing tools that goes on my Dremel. One of the things that I did on this, I'm burnishing 3-ounce veg tan leather, which isn't very stiff. It can be challenging for me, at least, to burnish. So it's kind of hard to see here, but I took a hacksaw blade, and while this was spinning, just touched the hacksaw blade to the middle there, and it made a groove that is about the same thickness as my leather. And then what I'll do is I'll run the wax on the wheel first, and then I take that to the wallet sections. So, you know, a lot of this is double layer, so that burnish is pretty easy, but like these inner card pockets are one layer of 3-ounce, and that little groove allows you to go in here and get a burnish on this without it like wanting to flop over as quick. So that is something that definitely helped my edges out. You know, edges are one of those things, like, I don't think I'm ever gonna stop learning about burnishing and trying to get better at it. I think I'm at an acceptable point now. You know, when other people that aren't experienced, they think they look great. I'm sort of always trying to push that, but the rotary tool has definitely helped. And the only thing I've noticed with that is you got to be careful that you keep it slow and you don't go overboard and you know, burn your edges, which is pretty easy to do. So as far as hand tools, you know, that's sort of the big stuff. Some other things that I've done, which I think are really, really helpful on my wallets. Yeah, I'm not doing big production numbers, but you know, they're a pretty standard configuration. So, you know, in other words, when I do a stitch, I'm doing it multiple times. So one thing I did, and it doesn't need to be on a board like this, but I made a board, and each of my color threads I put up here. So at the first line, like, I'll pull this down to that line and then cut it off up there. So that's how much thread I need for the T-slot pocket. So the reason I do that is instead of having to measure or guess how much thread I'm using every time, all I have to do is grab the color and pull down to the T-slot line. This is my short stitching edge, long stitching edge, and then, yeah, so that it takes all the thinking out of it, and I'm using the exact amount of thread that makes sense every time. I haven't seen somebody else do this on YouTube. I'm sure other people have thought of it. Or maybe I have seen it and I just don't remember. You could do this on like a stick, or you could lay out the lines on your table. But if you're doing repeat work, this has been a big time saver for me. So just something to consider. Another thing that I do, I don't always work in the same area, and I hate spending time wasting and looking for tools. So this is a piece of packaging foam. I just lay out all my tools on here and cut them in. It's still a bit of a mess, but you get the idea. You know, I have my rubber mallet and, you know, my awl and my knives and needle nose, lighter, bone scriber. You know, everything has sort of its own little place. You know, when I'm working, a lot of times the stuff isn't necessarily in here, but you get the idea. Like, I have it on an old Snap-on tool cart. So I'll wheel this around to wherever I'm working, or you can actually pick up the whole thing and take it in the shop. For my designs, once I sort of know, like, you know, my wallets are sort of formalized now, I CNC'd some plexiglass templates for cutting. So these have done dozens and dozens of wallets at this point, and they're holding up pretty good. I know there's some vendors online that'll like sell those to you. So I don't have a clicker press yet. Maybe at some point that'll happen, or maybe a laser cutter. But for now, you can get some really good quality from a set of plexiglass templates if you're careful, and it's reasonably quick. I'm sure you know, cutter dies or laser might be faster, but for the cost, like, you can put out some pretty professional looking products using that method. Let's see. As far as stamps, I grabbed an old arbor press, and this is an arbor press that I have, and I'm into metalwork, so I ended up machining, but this is my logo stamp die here on the bottom, and this is a hollow arbor press, which are sort of tricky to find. But I rigged this up with the heating element for the stamp goes down through, so that allows me to get everything really square and consistently press. I don't know about you, I find striking the brass logos, let's see, I don't have over here in my shop. You know, it came with like an all metal handle. I'm trying to think. Well, it doesn't matter. Basically, there's a thread on handle on there, and if you strike it, it definitely makes a mark. But I just find that it's a little bit tricky, or I should say, it's very tricky for me anyway, to get an even, consistent embossing. So, you know, that's sort of what the logo looks like, and that's from leatherstampmaker.com. I've dealt with them once. I got it fast here before the holidays. I was pretty happy with it. Let's see, what else we got? So another quick time-saving thing that I found, I'm always tripping over this rotary thing, so I put it on a bungee cord to the ceiling. So it's not, the cords aren't on my table. The wiring goes up to the ceiling as well. Again, that's a personal preference, but it sort of worked out pretty slick. And then I'll spin you around here. So when I was getting started, I did not have a stitching pony, but I did have a 3D printer. So this is just some plywood that I cut up, and I 3D printed these stitching pony jaws. And what's sort of nice about this, let's see if I can get you in the frame. I specifically sized this for the size of my wallets. So that sort of worked out. So this was sort of supposed to be a temporary thing, and I was always going to go buy my own stitching pony. I never found a reason to. This one's working out fine. It holds it good, and I sort of like this idea because with the 3D printed heads, I could easily make a couple of these for different products, or custom print them so that way it really holds things in a very specific way. I could see, like, if I did a belt, I could do a longer one. My keychains, I might do a smaller one. And from what I found, the 3D print surface, this is PLA plastic. I think I did 25% infill on this, but anyway, it's holding up fine. It's not hurting the leather. So that's a good solution if you have a 3D printer and you want to get into leather work. And sort of the bottom of this, you can see there, I just cut a square hole and it slots down in there, a couple of wood screws, like literally scrap. When I'm working with this a lot, I just took some scrap leather and made a little pocket on the side, and I'll stick a knife in there, a lighter for when I'm burning threads off, stuff like that. Again, it's not pretty, but it's cheap and it works. Try to think. Oh yeah, while I have this, one other thing, when I am stitching on the keychains, I gotta get a camera that has a screen that faces me, but when I'm stitching on the keychains, one of the things I noticed is, these things are always flopping back and forth, and I don't sell these for much money, so they can't take much time to begin with. So one day I was sitting here and the bungee cord from the burnisher was sitting there, and I realized, well, hey, if I just hook that through there, I'm able to stitch, this stays up out of the way, and that's been a huge time saver. Again, this is all stupid little stuff that I've just come up with along the way, but there's a lot of times where, like, you know, on either end of this, you do it. Sometimes when, I'm trying to think, when on some of the wallets, some of the sections of wallets, like at the bottom of the T-slots, something's wanting to flop over. So that's something I have to play with. I haven't done any wallets since I did this the other day. Anytime you're flipping something back and forth, if you can run something to your ceiling with a bungee cord or something and maybe a clamp, definitely seems like it could help out. So anyway, that is sort of a crash course in some of the leatherwork stuff that I've done over the last year, some of the things that I found to be most helpful. So anyway, yeah, we are Factory 529. If you've made it this long into the video, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave some comments. If you have anything that is contrary to what I'm saying, let me know. Maybe we can all help each other out. And good luck with your leather work. And if you're in need of a wallet, head over to factory529.com. And I'd really appreciate the business. So thank you. Bye.